Hello friends, this week I bring you the review of Chapter 12 of Baki Rahen, continuing the fight between Yujiro Hanma and Kosho Shinogi. This fight began in the previous chapter, and after a couple of weeks of hiatus, we finally have a new chapter to see the development of this battle. In the previous chapter, Jack and Kosho entered the combat arena to the ovation of the fans. There was a clear preference for Jack, but undoubtedly Kosho had a part of the audience supporting him and eager to see him in action again. Remember, this is his comeback fight, as he had been away from the underground arena for a long time. Fighters like Baki, Doppo Katsumi, and Hanayama were present to observe this battle. Before the fight began, we saw how Jack stood in front of Kosho and leaned forward to look him in the face. The funny thing is that, even doing that, Jack was still a bit taller than Kosho. Everyone interpreted this action as a lack of respect, but Kosho didn't give it much importance. The fight finally started and Kosho was the first to attack. The cord cutter attacked Jack with a burst of slices. Jack only managed to cover his face. After that fierce attack, we see that Kosho's cuts had impacted several parts of Jack's body. However, despite the injuries, the cyborg shows no signs of pain. This week's chapter begins by giving us a better view of Yujiro Hanma, where we can appreciate the result of Kosho's attacks. The narrator says that this man, who looks like Human Tower, has been cut by the man known as the cord cutter. The narrator mentions that a single burst of cuts was enough to leave Jack in such a condition. However, the real question is whether that will be enough to stop his counterattack. In the next panel, we can see Kosho completely relaxed. Despite having made a significant number of movements with his arms and legs, this man was cool, without a single drop of sweat. It had been made clear that weapons were not allowed. But the reality is that both fighters were armed. That's right, their bodies were their own weapons. Kosho with fingers sharp as blades and Jack with titanium teeth. It seems that these two managed to circumvent the only rule written for the fight. The narrator tells us that this was just the first wave of cuts, and it surely won't be the last. Still, it's surprising that Jack continues to maintain such a calm expression, as if he had already predicted this scenario. People in the audience began to doubt whether Kosho was unarmed. Seeing Jack's body, they believed that Kosho had used a real blade, as it seemed impossible that he had made those cuts with just his fingers. Among the crowd was Baki, who knew that Kosho had no weapon. He acknowledges that Kosho has improved a lot since the last time they'd faced each other. Baki says that, compared to when they faced off, Kosho is now sharper and faster. In the next panel, we can see Kosho getting back into fighting position while raising his hands, as if telling Jack to prepare for the second wave of cuts. The narrator says that the beast in front of him is ready for the next move. Jack gets into a combat stance, and now waits for the attack head-on, with his eyes fixed on his opponent. It is also mentioned that Cyborg Jack is a born martial artist. We must not forget that Jack knows how to connect with a jab, knows how to kick, and of course knows how to throw a right hook. If you thought the beast only knew how to bite, you were very mistaken. Now, both fighters return to the center of the arena and prepare for the next exchange of blows. The first to move is Jack, who attacks with his left arm on multiple occasions. However, Kosho manages to dodge each of the attacks and keeps his distance while trying to find a blind spot to make his move. The fans continue in shock at seeing Kosho's agility, but it's even more surprising to see that Jack can move at such speed with such a large and heavy body. Doppo, Goki, and Katsumi had observed this exchange of blows and seemed surprised at the agility with which both fighters move. Jack changes strategy and tries to launch a kick at Kosho. However, he fails to connect as the cord cutter makes a huge leap in the air and avoids Jack's touch with that attack. But the best comes when Kosho takes advantage of that momentum in the air and delivers a strong kick to Jack's face. The cyborg receives that strong blow, but continues with his offense and launches several kicks in an attempt to knock down Kosho. In the next panel, we can see that Kosho tried to attack with another kick, but Jack was faster and managed to block the attack. The cyborg took advantage of this moment, and being so close to Kosho, grabbed one of his arms as if they were shaking hands. Jack laughs and tells Kosho that his hands are too soft to be so sharp. Kosho is impressed upon feeling Jack's hand and immediately recognizes that being close is dangerous. So he prepares his right hand and launches the next attack. Kosho hits Jack directly in the face, and it seems that this time he managed to cause significant damage. Kosho's prediction was not wrong, as thanks to that last blow Jack had lost the sight in his left eye. It appears he used his cord-cutting technique to sever the nerves of Jack's left eye, and because of that, the cyborg was now partially blind. But despite losing sight in one eye, Jack does not let go of Kosho. He finally had him where he wanted and quickly opens his jaws to bite it on the shoulder. This is how the chapter ends, with Jack delivering the first bite of the fight. Everything indicates that Kosho would receive significant damage after that strong bite. And while the manga has had a very slow publication rhythm, this month we've only had 2 chapters, and I don't know if the next chapter will be published next week. I hope so, as with so many breaks, interest in this fight decreases over time. Jack's fight against Nomi had some breaks, but I don't remember them being as many as in this fight. The truth is that this is due to the fact that Itagaki has other series in publication, and as a result, has somewhat neglected the Baki manga, which is his main story. But anyway, speaking of the fight, I must say that so far it's going very well. It's been an explosive battle from the start, and even though the chapters have been very short, I believe this fight isn't disappointing. It's noteworthy that Jack lost the sight in one eye. I don't know if Kosho planned this, but he could benefit from it, as it reduces Jack's reaction speed, who is known for having very sharp and fast vision. The technique he used to blind Jack is the same one he used in his fight against Baki. On that occasion, Kosho cut the nerves in Baki's eye and temporarily took away his vision. He surely did the same with Jack. What the narrator said at one point in the fight is important to consider. He said that Jack is not just someone who bites, he is a complete martial artist, skilled at kicking and throwing right hooks with great agility. Undoubtedly, this is something Kosho should have considered, as Nomi made the mistake of underestimating Jack's abilities, and we saw how that fight ended. I read a comment suggesting that Kosho might use protection, similar to what Matabe used in his fight against Jack. If we remember correctly, he wore a special jacket that exploded the moment Jack bit his shoulder, causing him to lose all his teeth in the explosion. However, I highly doubt Kosho would decide to use something like that, as weapons are supposed to be prohibited in the fight, and a gadget like that would count as a weapon. Besides, Kosho is not someone we see using weapons. In his fight against Doyle, he knew the criminal was armed, yet he chose to face him with bare fists. I highly doubt he has changed his fighting style so quickly. Now that I think about it, Kosho is one of the few fighters who prefer to fight using only their body as their main weapon. Many fighters have resorted to using weapons in their fights, but Kosho continues to use only his arms and legs. What is certain is that the bite to the shoulder will be a very serious injury that could be decisive in the fight. It's also important to consider that the cuts Jack received could affect him later in combat. Remember, Nomi lost the fight due to blood loss, so it would be curious if Jack suffers something similar on this occasion. I doubt it will happen, since the cuts were not that deep, but being numerous, they may affect him in some way. Either way, we'll have to wait for the next chapter to see how things end. Remember, you can leave me your opinion on this chapter in the fight and tell me how you think the fight might end. I don't think the fight will end so quickly. I think we'll have about 4 or 5 more chapters before we know the winner. But anyway, stay tuned to the channel to see the upcoming chapters. And well, friends, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked it. I hope you have a nice day or night. See you soon.